This is the MO Sessions podcast, where we talk about magic ways to become a better magician to be good to your magic. I'm your host, Benny Slade, and I couldn't be any more thrilled that you are here. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the MO Sessions. I'm your host, Benny Slade, and I'm here with a very elusive man. I don't have a lot of information on him. His name is Kent Gunn. He is the founder, and he runs the GGG convention out of California and now in Florida. He's been all over the world, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say about not only his cups and balls routine, which has a great reputation, but the man himself. So, Kent Gunn, thank you for joining us today.
It's a real pleasure. I'm sort of honored.
So I want to go to the beginning. How did you end up in the magic world? How did you get here?
I have no memory of not having magic as my hobby. There's a picture of me at 6 at in a Halloween costume with a conical hat and holding a magic wand. It's always been a part of my life, and I really haven't fallen off. Oh, I quit for 20 years because I'm a loser. No, I didn't quit for 20 years because I'm a loser. Just, let me show you something here real quick. Can you see those books?
Yes, sir.
I'm a book guy.
So am I.
I wasn't a collector, and somebody says, "Have you read all those books?" I said, "No." I said, "You're a collector." So I've always been fascinated with magic books, and early on, I walked into a magic shop in Ogden, Utah called the Fun Shop, and a guy did a couple tricks out of the Stars of Magic. I said, "Can I buy that book?" He said, "No, but I'll loan you my copy," which was sort of awesome. I brought it back after I'd learned the 2 tricks he showed me. He said, "Oh, you can buy a copy at this magic shop." I went there, and Earl Nelson was behind the counter. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he wrote a really cool book called Variations. It's just a great, not that much older than me. And he would hold back good books for me, and I've still got all those books. So for me, it's books and other magicians.
I think that's awesome.
True. Yeah.
What's your favorite book?
The Stars of Magic.
Stars of Magic. I heard somewhere that Las Vegas Karma was your favorite magic book at one point, maybe?
Well, it's because I probably do more stuff of Alan Ackerman's than anybody else, and he's certainly my favorite card magician. So
Nice.
I think the world of him. I've got to spend some time with him. I had him come out and lecture our convention. I see him at some of the small-scale geeky conventions, and he's great to little kids that want to show him stuff. He's a math professor. He's the greatest card magician I've ever seen in my life. So
I enjoy Ackerman. I started in the Marlowe world, so
that's certainly a close branch.
Yeah, I dove into the Marlowe world pretty much head on and bought everything I could get my hands on, the magazines, the card book, all of it. And I had somebody here at the local magic club that said, "Oh, you're into Marlowe." And I was really steeped into it. I was doing everything out of revolutionary card technique almost. And Dan Garrett, who is no longer with us, said, "Go check out Steve Reynolds, over in New Orleans. He's kind of the guy who's holding the Marlowe legacy." And I said, "Really?"
He is indeed.
I checked out Steve Reynolds, and Steve Reynolds has been an incredible mentor and teacher to me. And he talks about Ackerman a lot, and he pretty much is guiding me down the rabbit path through the years of all the different branch offs that connect to Marlowe. So,
well,
yeah.
I've met Steve several times, had him come lecture for me. And people always kind of dry. And I said, "No, he's really talented and he practices. You think that, right, because you're a loser. He's fabulous, and he's an entertainer. Very charming, very funny."
Yeah, when I went to New Orleans to go see him, he was doing stuff out of the Hammond book that you only see Hammond do in the videos. And I'm watching him do it in front of me, and it's just, I didn't realize how in-depth he was on the Hammond work as well, which is amazing.
Very well read, and I love me some John. That yellow book is it's in my 10-inch shelf, as is Revolutionary Card Technique.
I think everybody should have those two books in itself. I think they're amazing.
Ham and stuff and blow them away. Micro Macro, one of the best card tricks ever.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I was just reading actually in Ackerman's new books, the what is it, 2001 Reverse, and it just blew me away. Like seeing it on video it's one of those Hammond moments where you go, there has to be some sort of gimmick going on, and then you realize there's no gimmick, no
I'm
gimmick cards.
not averse to using gimmicks. I just don't mostly because I spent 20 years in a very crowded situation where people would snatch the deck out of my hands on a submarine. So I generally
Mm.
decks of cards, and most of my repertoire is done with normal cards.
Talk to me a little bit about your career in the Navy.
I didn't like it. That's why I won't go on a cruise now. I did once, and they put me in the engine room for 20 years.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
in the engine room on submarines for about half that time, and the other half I was either in school or teaching school in Orlando. So I got to learn how to be a power plant guy and a teacher, and I've done both of those things after I got out of the Navy. Good preparation for life after the Navy. And, both of my sons have joined. My youngest son is retired from the Army already. That's how old
Oh,
I am.
wow.
Children are retiring.
Do you feel like you just kind of touched on the fact that Navy prepared you for some things? Do you feel like with the path you ended up going on in Magic, it helped?
It was good because, I had a confined audience. Once you close those hatches, the spectators can't get away from you, and you're pretty much hurting for entertainment. So I always had an audience, and I had
Mm-hmm.
3 really good students. It's something to do. Some guys pick their nose, some guys look at porn. Well, I did that too, but um the it gave me something to do. And I carried Darwin Ortiz's At the Table and a couple Rockerbaumer books and Kaufman's Coin Magic. And I worked up every
Mm.
routine in those books, and that just lots of time to practice.
Was any of the situations kind of like, I'm assuming you're always surrounded because you're so crowded. So was there any like
That
routines that you?
the last submarine I was on was 2 football fields long. Crowded is an unfair word. There are places in the engine room that are pretty big that there's only one guy on watch. But if crowds bother you, don't join the submarine service. Wow, I lived in Georgia for 2 years. Kings Bay, there's a
Fort
sub
Benning? Oh,
sub
really?
base, Navy base. Yeah, it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
right north of Jacksonville. Yeah.
I'll keep going then. So your Fun Shop Cups and Balls is kind of a really interesting routine. It's very different. Um,
Yeah,
and
I've
it's I
performed for magicians, and I forget who told me this. It was probably my buddy Marvin of the Fun Shop. He said, "If you're not fooling every audience you see, you're not a magician, you're a clown." He was sort of sardonic, but I developed the
mm,
routine just to fool magicians, and it uses some
mm,
tools I've only seen a couple other magicians use. 3 different colored balls, and it's not the who is it? Aldo Colombini had a routine with 3 balls. Whoa, I lost you. Oh, there you are. I didn't lose you, but
I'm
Aldo
here.
Colombini had a routine with 3 balls. This isn't it. And I think the final loads are I do it differently. I'm not loading from my pockets. I don't use a servant.
Hmm.
And the I'm not
You
saying
can
it's
do
a
it completely surrounded, or
you could, but you'd flash horribly on the left side.
mm,
It is not, it's definitely not fit for street consumption. I can change the loads a little bit and do it surrounded, but they aren't as strong. If anybody wants to
yeah.
check it, it's on YouTube. My name is Kent Gunn, and it's the Fun Shop Cups and Balls. It'll come right up.
Have you published it anywhere?
Just self-publishing, and you can get it through library.com. But
It's an incredible routine.
he charges more than I would, so you should just email me at kentgunn@gmail.com, and I'll send you a copy for less than, it's easier to get it from library, though. He's a good guy. I don't take his
Yeah,
business.
yeah, absolutely. How'd you come up with the Fun Shop cups and balls? Like you were talking on Aldo Colombini. Was there anything that what was
I
the
s-
inspiration?
two things were the inspiration. I saw Brett Sherwood's cups, and I always admired Vernon's, and they're not a knockoff, but they're very beautiful. So I ordered a set. They weren't that much when I got them a long time ago. They're like $1,200. I get them and I
Mhm.
go, wow, I probably ought to work up a cups and balls routine. And I got 3 different color balls because I didn't know which ones I wanted. And my wife comes in as I'm playing with them. I can't even call it practicing. And, oh, that'll be neat doing it with different colored balls. Said, I hate you, woman. And there's a guy in the East Bay out in California named Byron Walker who's
Mhm.
got about 80,000 magic books in his house. So I used his library and looked at a bunch of different sources. Um, Travers Cooper has a different color ball routine. I don't use any of his stuff, but it was very inspiring. The only routine I can point to that I use a lot of is in Harry Reiser's The Feints and Temps of Harry Reiser. He does
Mhm.
some number of balls he uses that I copied, and Harry's just a good guy, was a good guy. So it's
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm rambling, but yeah, and I did it for a bunch of magicians. They say that's cool. I've lectured on it twice. Just got through at Magic Live doing it. A couple of my buddies got me the gig, free ticket to Magic Live in a hotel room. That's a cheap magic convention. If it wasn't for the hookers and the blow, I would have saved money. So, oh, a great time there. Just, I don't like
Yeah.
Vegas. I mean, I'm tacky, but I'm not Vegas tacky. But
Gaudy.
great convention. Yeah.
Talk to me about your convention. I've heard of it. I saw the lineup when you had, I think it was Jared Koff, right after they did Way of the Wizards a few years ago. And I didn't realize you were in Florida. I knew for a while I was in California, and
So
I
that
wish I could have made it down.
on my 50th birthday, because nobody was going to throw me a party, so I threw my own and called it a magic convention, kind of as a whimsical joke. And then we're going to do this again next year. And I went, yeah, it wasn't just a birthday party. So I did that till I left California. I turned 65. My wife's Jewish. They put us on a rail car to Florida. I thought that was wrong, but apparently there's some obscure.
I'm Jewish as well, so that got a little chuckle.
Yeah, very little. Yeah, the rail car is probably right on the edge of, ooh, and it doesn't bother me.
That's
Just
wild.
the 23andMe thing, and completely to my surprise, I'm like 50% Ashkenazi Jew. And all my wife said,
Really?
I wish my father was still alive. I'd be so glad to tell him I married a nice Jewish boy, which I thought was sort of or
That's
I
all our
guess
parents want.
Jews in the wood pile. Is that even a thing? No. Glad I didn't use a different. But
That's great.
it's real small. The year I had Darwin Ortiz out, we got about 70 people in California. I don't think I've hit very small, but you can talk to everybody. Bill Malone comes out most years, and he's just a treasure. He's not going to lecture for me because he doesn't like me that much, but he likes to hang out. And there is a real gold mine of wonderful magicians in Florida. Terry Ward, who was at Disney for 35 years, probably has more shows at the same venue than any person on earth. He comes out. There's a bunch of guys that work the Hard Rock, 3 of them. They'll show up. A bunch of just working pros who are great magicians, and sometimes I have them on the bill. And, you know, Mike Amar's coming this year, one of my heroes. I think he's taught more people magic through his video series than anybody else. And people
Mhm.
speak of him, and you meet him, and you go, I love that guy and his hairstyle. He's just awesome.
Yeah,
Going to be here
it's
this
great.
year, another working pro. There's a coin guy from California named Danny Chang. He just came to the convention last year, and I said, I think I need to pay you to come out next year.
Right.
He's fabulous. Another local guy, because I don't have to pay travel, who's been on Fool Us is Jimmy Ichiana, who did Call to the Colors, which is an effect I'm sure you're familiar with. I'd never seen anybody do it live. He does it perfectly. He's smart. He has a real job. He's got kids. He probably has sex, unlike most married people.
Is that
And
similar to Nash's effect? Is that what it is?
it's very similar.
Yeah.
Tip does it better than Martin Nash did, which is saying a lot.
Yeah, I
Jimmy
was about to say.
can talented.
Wow.
And
Wow.
there's a guy, oh, yeah, he's not important. Gary Plants is coming out.
Love Gary.
Yeah,
Gary
and
is awesome.
he's the man.
Yeah.
Probably know this,
When
but
is it?
he's working the cruise ships these days.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I see he's traveling all over the world. I didn't know he was because of the cruise ships.
yeah, doing
That's
some man.
awesome.
Retired school teacher, and just I would say in terms of shuffle work across every variety, I've known, he's fabulous.
What do you feel like having the convention allows you to have all the magicians to kind of come to you rather than go to New York or Chicago or Vegas or
Well, I started it. I joke about the birthday party. It was on my birthday, but I had always wanted to meet Mike Gallo. I knew his dad. That's how
Mhm.
old. And I had seen Curtis Cam only through video. So one of my the guy that was really the backbone of the convention in Florida by the name of Dave Nelson knows Curtis. I'll call him. He'll come out for your. No, he won't. I get a call the next day. Hey, Cam, this is Curtis Cam. I'm real happy to come to your convention. Will you buy me a plane ticket? And said, you live in Hawaii? Yeah, sure I will. And I give you $500, pay for your hotel. He said, I'm there. He brought
Wow.
a bottle with him who came out with him several times. I got to meet Curtis Cam, and I love coin magic as well as cards and the cups and balls. And both of them very different, but that that was sort of my motivation. Also had Harry
Yeah.
Wright come out, who books that I read. I thought Harry Reiser was dead, but no, he was alive. I had him come out.
Oh, wow. Was he not doing stuff? Was he not
No, he was.
associating with anyone? He just kind of did his thing?
No, he still had his little coven. Mostly, he hung out with jazz musicians. He ran a radio station for years. Not ran, but had a show on a radio station.
Mhm.
Just charming beyond measure. And he knew Percy Diaconis and had Percy show up at the convention. The only person I
Oh,
know to
wow.
mention that Percy Diaconis. People say he hates magicians. He was charming and effusive. He took pictures. He had been my professor at one point. It was just, I called him up and go, Dr. Diaconis, you remember the really old guy in your stat class? He said, yeah, you weren't very bright. Yeah, I know. Thanks a lot. I like you too. But Harry Reiser's in town. I'm running on magic. Why didn't you tell me you're a magician? I heard you hate magicians. He said, I don't hate magicians. I hate some magicians. But
Right.
good guy. I've still got a couple pictures of him. He's a stud.
Do you feel like over the years you've kind of noticed, I'll just say like a Triple G community kind of grow with it? Because you did it for your birthday, so I'm sure you had no intention of.
Yeah, it kind of was a bad joke that I can't quit telling. There's certainly a community here. We had a weekly meeting for quite a while that was the sort of the core guys here. A couple people I have to mention that helped me run the convention are Craig Osterling, who is sort of,
Oh, wow.
he has become Bob Swadling's mentee, a word I don't like. He makes the best cap coins in the world these days because he's got all of Lassen's equipment. He bought it from Lassen's daughter. He went out there and drove it all home. And he's the guy, he makes the best Okido boxes in the world. So he's my AV figured out guy. One year I had
Nice.
Bob and his wife lecture for us. I said, hey, Val won FISM one year. Can you find that video and put it up for us? So they walk in and we show that video, which I thought, and she was younger then, but
Hmm.
he is a tech wizard. And the other three people I have to mention are Tony and Rosie Miller. If you don't like Tony, you don't go visit him in his suite, but he has been instrumental about getting people to come. And his wife and her friend, Jamie Duffy Keller, run the convention. They're the ones who give you the ticket, throw you out if you're drunk. No, don't do that. I mean, I've had the same crew for a long time. Craig was out in California with me, so
Very cool. Do you have any like I recently I heard a magician talk about how they miss the old school camaraderie with magic where you had to go travel to see a magician or you heard about it or the whispers and you would go and see a magician. Do you feel like with your convention, aside from you starting it, as a birthday gift to yourself, do you feel like you're getting magicians on your lineup that people are actually gonna fly all over to come see, or you just invite who you want to see, or
at at this point, I take recommendations. I've been doing it, let's see, 10, 13 years totally. So, um, at this point, I'm running out of magician friends. I've had a lot of repeaters. I had Curtis and Gallo come out twice. I've had Swadling lecture twice. Um, it's just, it's people I know, people who I hang out with in Florida. And I'll be honest, most of the people I get are people that show up to the convention and do stuff. I go, hey, you ought to come lecture next year.
Mhm.
Tony Miller and Rosie are a great source. He's the guy who makes the best wallets in the world, magic wallets. And yeah, he makes his living with a sewing machine. He's not gay. Well, he's not gay, but he's unattractive. And why do you invite Tony? I go, so I'm not the rudest person of the convention. He has no filters. He's
Do
awesome.
you want to talk magic politics? Would you talk magic politics with me,
I
or
have, so I'd be glad to.
what do you think about? Well, I guess I should preface this by saying I get a lot of when I started the podcast, I was coming off as very polarizing and very forward, and some people thought I was very close-minded about magic, which has slightly changed over the years. That was during the pandemic. I was reading so many books about, I was reading Devon and Masculine, and I was reading all these old books about magic and really what they had to say about it, and then hearing my friend Shane Cobalt, share his opinions on magic and all these other magicians, and I've created my own opinion about magic. What do you think about the current state of magic? Compared to you've been around to see.
It's never been better. Most people decry the internet. I think outside of the printed word, it's the second greatest source for magic information. It will inspire you. I like to learn from books. Not everybody does. I'm an
Hmm.
old guy, got a bunch of books. That's
Hmm.
how I first learned magic. But if some kid is, there's a kid that I worked with, there's a magic shop in Cocoa Ford I worked at for a little while. I got fired for telling a racist joke. Imagine that. I tell the joke, but we'll get us both put off the air. And he found Slidini online and learned how to do his effects, not with explanations. He just worked the tricks out. And it doesn't get any
Hmm.
better. Slidini's been dead longer than he's been alive. I mean,
Right.
I'm live once, but he'll never get a chance. But he got inspired by him. Before I showed up, he'd never seen anybody do close-up magic.
Hmm.
So I did some stuff out of Coin Magic by Richard Kalpin, the finest book on coin magic extant. It's going to be replaced by Kalpin's new big version of Greater Magic, by the way. Buy a
Yeah.
copy. Because
Yeah.
Richard's an obnoxious little man, but he's a brilliant man and a fabulous writer. He's my favorite magic author. I'm actually very fond of him. If he didn't like Lucky Charms so much, I'd think more of him. But for
Yeah.
me, I think the magic's at its best possible peak. Are there a bunch of small shops? No, but there aren't a bunch of small shops of any kind anymore. So, the castle's thriving. There's a magic shop in the town next to mine. There's a magic dinner theater here. Penn and Teller Foolis is a huge factor, and a bunch of magicians have won the big TV shows. I think other than the heyday when we had Copperfield and Henning on TV at the same time, not at the same time, obviously. That'd be some really shitty scheduling. But
Yeah.
it
Got a
was
big
just
one.
that was a huge time.
Hmm.
But no, it's never been better for me. The convention allowed me to meet more magicians all over the country. I don't have a big name. I got a name, but it's a little name. Kent Gunn, only 8 letters.
That's okay.
but I do my own stuff or huge variations on very standard stuff.
Mm-hmm. What kind of coin magic do you like? Where'd you start your journey with that?
Well, like everybody else, somebody showed me how to do a French drop wrong. There's a book called Dingle, a pamphlet, Dingle's Deceptions, and he talks about a different way to do the French drop that's much better. And then I got the Bobo book, and I was very disappointed. This is going to be a game changer, and it wasn't. I think that it was a good snapshot of the 1940s, and the Milt Court stuff is fabulous. But then I got Kaufman's book, and I started doing a bunch of coin magic.
Hmm.
Yeah. Mostly ungapped. I have my own copper silver, or not copper silver, but Okido box routine I worked up when I was a teenager. It was actually based on Sun and Moon, and I do that. Way too many coins across routines. I have a stand-up coins routine, sort of not as good as Florius, but much easier.
Do you do seated close up or standing or
Almost
like kind of
always
like a?
standing. I like to loom over my people. I loom so much, sometimes a Persian ass falls out of my rug or out of my hat.
That's good. That's
No,
good.
I do better standing.
Well, I would imagine with your obviously your cups and balls routine, you would have to stand for that, right?
I just prefer to work standing. I think I don't want to say it makes the magic more important, but it, there's some different. I think you get a better command of your audience when you're standing. You can break out the whip quicker.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like when you're learning cups and balls that Stars of Magic is kind of like the first exposure to that, or
It
the
was
Vernon
for
Book of
me,
Magic?
but I got the little orange pamphlet, which is nothing more than a reprint of the cups and balls pages. And I did that
Right.
routine my whole time in the Navy. I called up my routine. I got out of the Navy when I got to actually hang out with other magicians, and I realized it was everybody's routine. And I
Right.
quit doing it because I'm a lot of things, but I'm not every other magician. And I don't think my routine is better than Vernon's. I think Vernon's routine is fabulous. And in the right hands, like Jared Kopp
Mm-hmm.
or Bob White, it's just a thing of beauty. And I don't think mine compares, but mine's different.
Yeah, I think that's my problem with cups and balls is that I'm currently working on a show and I formatted the show to open with cups and balls, and I went through a full dress rehearsal with the show, and I pretty much was like watching the video back and saying to myself, this is what everybody else is fucking doing, and
If you want to
that's
pick
not good
somebody
enough for me.
routine to key off of, look at a Mars routine in the Complete Cups and Balls. It's not very, no, it's the most complete book on cups and balls extant. And it is just fabulous. Other people to look at are Al Schneider's got more work on the cups and balls, varied routines, moves I've never seen anybody else do. And he's just a smart guy. Al Schneider, and I think the Amar routine is more fun. The appearance of the
Yeah.
ball, it's more varied. And I got the idea of doing the loads, not all in one big slam at the end, but
Mm-hmm.
sequentially through the routine when it's easier to misdirect that idea from magicians. So a big shout out to Mike Amar for that idea of doing a load, doing a bunch of magic with 2 cups, doing a bunch of magic with 1 cup, boom, loads.
Mm-hmm.
Much more deceptive and much harder to backtrack. If you're one of those geeks who watches magic videos more than once, I'm not.
Are you
I
part
had
of
guys.
the
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. Are you part of the Arnaud's video collection on Facebook, the group?
The what collection? Probably not.
So it's I don't know where this guy got these videos, but he's found all these video VHSs from I guess the 70s, 80s and forward. And he digitized them and posted clips in this private group. And one of the ones I saw on there was Johnny Thompson now on a Japanese television show, and he does the cups and balls. He opens with the cups and balls, and the only other person I've seen do it that way is a magician out of Korea, Ed Kwan, and he
Was all
opens it up by handing out the cup to the audience member and having them put their finger on it and doing it that I haven't seen it. Nobody does it that way.
I throw mine in the air as a so if they try to backtrack it. No, he showed me those cups empty at the beginning, but most of it makes the collectors twitch because they're Sherwood silver cup.
Drop it. Don't drop it.
And I've dropped them. You take them to a silversmith and they bang them out. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Even you could take it to a music store too that has brass instruments and they can do it as
Absolutely.
well. What do you you said you had somebody who was a little bit younger that you were teaching or kind of
I think in
mentoring?
smart. I mean, I showed him how to do stuff. I wouldn't consider myself a mentor or anything. Nobody wants to be my student. But yeah, his name is Justin, and he's very talented. He's probably got more time on stage at 23 than most magicians who are 50. He works or worked with Dr. Dan the Magic Man, a local children's magician who runs the magic shop in town. He's very charming magician, does only children's shows. He's on the library circuit. He does all the elementary schools in the county. And Justin's been his assistant and magician when he couldn't perform, probably for 5-10 years. Lots of time. And he's a derelict. He probably smokes too much dope and doesn't go to college, but he's a good magician. What else really matters?
Yeah, it's true. Well, what's your advice for young magicians getting into magic who might be listening to this and they came across it randomly? Where do they start?
Or girls. Put the cards down. Talk to them. You're either going to be stuck with it. Other than my children, I don't give a lot of advice, except maybe on technique. Watch stuff on YouTube that you like. And I think everybody ought to know the source of their magic tricks. I think knowing that history helps you. And most of the good
Yeah.
magic is in books. So,
Vernon always recommended the Hoffman books.
yeah, take that tarbell set and throw it in the garbage. That's my advice.
You don't like tarbell?
I love the illustrations. I love it for the time period. I think most of the stuff is a little underdeveloped. I think he was cranking stuff out for a correspondence course.
Mm.
I have a
That's
set.
why I only bought 1 through 4.
There you go. Actually, there's some really good stuff in 7. There's a couple of David Roth tricks in there that Lorraine included. That's okay. But Lorraine was probably a better overall author than Harlan Tarbell.
I'd rather read Expert Card Technique. That was my very first magic book I got, and it was gifted to me by my grandparents. And I was like 8 or 9 when I got it, and I had no idea. I learned birds of a feather,
Awesome.
and just did that for years. And little did I know that there was an expanded version with Vernon and Daly in it as well.
Yeah, my all backs routine comes from that 3rd edition of Expert Card Technique. I completely changed it because I'm not as good as Vernon, but it's a great effect. And I think that's also on my YouTube channel. You can look that up. I call it hypnosis. I pretend to hypnotize the audience because I don't know, my patterns generally, if not avant-garde, at least really weird.
Yeah. I recently saw Steve Reynolds put out a new, I guess it's a booklet with companion videos to it. He has his all bags routine, which I saw he was workshopping it at the time, but he pretty much had it all put together when I saw him a few years ago, and he finally is putting it out. And I think that's one of the best all backs routine in a while that I've seen. That makes sense.
I think mine will fool most magicians. It's got a couple of displays in it that are actually from Goodlat Dodson's exhibition card fans, just some little innuendos and little things about card fans most people don't realize. And I'm not talking about a reverse fan, because that's lame. Not really, but
yeah. Do you have a favorite magician?
Yeah, Terry
Will that
Ward.
get you in trouble?
No, Terry Ward. I'll tell anybody. He is, I used to, when I was in the Navy, I had a part-time job because the Navy didn't pay for shit. And I had 4 kids to feed. Every day they wanted food. Can you imagine that? I introduced him to intermittent fasting early in there. No. Um,
And then it was yoga after that.
some people call it intermittent fasting. I called it, we're out of fucking breakfast cereal.
That's
They'll
good.
eat at school, get out of my house. But I worked at the works fixing video games and penny presses for one of the vendors. And I had the ability and had to work on the machines in the park Terry worked at. I probably seen his show 100 times.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a theater major and graduated. You know, he was
Mm-hmm.
one of the few equity actors at Disney, and he's just better trained, rehearsed, and he's done the same stuff for a long time, and it's flawless.
That's awesome. What if you were to pick a magician from the past that you could sit down with for 24 hours, maybe not even that long, a few hours, who would it be and what would you talk about with them?
Probably Tony Slade. It was the best magic session I ever had. I paid, I think, $80 to get a lesson for him, and that was going to be 3 hours. So he did what do you want to learn? I don't want to learn anything. I have your books. Just do magic. And he did magic for 3 solid hours. He was charming.
You sat down with him?
Absolutely. In his hotel room. And I've never had a more magical experience, been fooled, charmed. People says he baits people and he's confrontational, and there was nothing confrontational about him. Just charming. And he was skinny. I like skinny people.
I would debate that. I would debate those comments about Slade. I think he's one of the greatest magicians to live.
Oh, yeah. He certainly revolutionized close-up magic, and Vernon stole from him. And you got to respect anybody that Vernon's willing to steal from.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I could listen to a cop kind of talk about Vernon for hours. I mean, he'll go on for hours about it, but his thinking on Vernon, I think, is spot on.
Put out, that's all the Vernon I need. That's a fabulous setup. It's just wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen most of them. Another real treasure that a lot of people aren't aware of is the coin convention videos that Mike Rubenstein, Mike Gallo, and early on, we'll stick with Gallo and Rubenstein, though. There were a couple other people who were, and David Roth, he kind of matters. They did the convention every year, and I think there's like 18 of those videos. And it's got the best coin magic on video anywhere. Just wonderful.
Is it the New York Coin Symposium?
I don't think they called it that. Maybe it was, but it's the New York Coin Goobers. It might be Symposium.
Okay. Yeah, I have those videos actually.
Watch them.
Yeah, they're amazing. I've been really going into every now and then. I'll go to Revelations, the Vernon videos.
Yeah,
and touch on that a little bit. But lately, I've been consuming a good amount of Ben Earl's new stuff he's got going on, it's incredible what he's doing with his membership and the family thing he has going on. It's a shameless plug. I don't get paid for it at all. But I think it's for the guys who want a little bit of the history and the modern stuff. He's kind of combining both of them and sitting down with some magicians. I think that's kind of a great way to kind of get the young guys to understand and respect what we're standing on here.
Yeah, when I learn a new trick, which isn't very often because I'm old, it always comes from books.
Yeah. Yep. I'm currently going through the Mellini book,
the one
Steve
that was
Cohen
just by the Millionaire's Magician, Steve, Jewish
Cohen.
name. Yeah, I've seen his show a couple of times. I think he practices when nobody's looking. Barry Paul.
Yeah. The book's amazing. I'm just absolutely kind of captured by the research that has been done on Mellini.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's every magician's dream.
Wouldn't even speak his name if Vernon hadn't been such a big fan.
Or Leipzig either.
No, I think that Vernon did more for close-up magic than anybody else, just promoting it. He was really the first nationwide tour guy. and he had a horrible voice, so.
You
Sing
should
Jared.
learn with naturalness. You don't do it that way. That's my Vernon.
There you go.
What have you? So you sat down with Slade. Did you learn any, like when you
I
were seeing that generation of magic?
I worked with one of his students before I went to college in Utah. I got thrown out of that college too, but that's a story for another day. Ergot, bad. Don't make things from ergot. I digress. So I had worked with Tony Barillo and could do the Han Peng Chen, the ultra, or the, not ultra move.
Yeah, the ultra. That's a card move.
Yeah, but I could do the helicopter. I did a bunch of his stuff. I wasn't going to do it for Slidini, but Barillo, one of his students, good Tony Barillo story. He was a pretty well-to-do real estate guy, and I had to pay $20 a lesson. And I'd go there once a week and give him my money, was happy to do it, was working at a magic shop in between college and the Navy. And I tell him, hey, Tony, I can't come back. I'm going in the Navy. He said, really? So you're never coming back? I said, okay. So he went over to his bookcase, pulled out an envelope, told him I was getting married. Here's a wedding present. It was every $20 bill I'd ever given him. Said, you probably need this more than you would have spent it on, stuff. So he was a good guy.
Yeah.
His other well-known student, I'm not well-known, is Dave Neighbors. So Dave Neighbors and I hung out when we were in high school. Yeah, he became a famous coin magician. I decided to have sex with women. I think I chose right.
Was that some advice you learned early on? Put the cards down, go get your dick sucked?
No, but, it seemed more important at the time. Still does.
Yeah.
Well, not at 67. I have other hobbies. They've come and gone, but magic is it's certainly the center of my social life. Now, who hooked us was Corny, Jeff Korn, right?
Yes.
He's a good guy. You'll probably
Jeff
never
is incredible
to this interview. But
Jeff is a great guy. He was here in Georgia for a little bit, and we always tried to have our paths cross at some point. We had been communicating. He's been great with helping me work on my show and originality and finding my voice while I'm performing, and it's incredible. He's a great magician, great guy.
Yeah. Anytime you get to do a gig at the same place for 5, 7, 8 years, like he did, I think it's one of the cornerstones of being a great magician.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. And I've always admired magicians that kind of go the Skinner route, where they can do a week, and every time they do it, whether it's 2 or 3 shows a day, 5, 7 days a week, and do all different material.
Yeah.
I can respect that and do it well.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit about just doing it? Doing it well is a whole different.
Anybody else just asking for the, no, probably not. Got to stay away.
What advice did you receive? Any advice early on from, magicians about when you were getting into magic? Stay with books, don't watch videos.
Not Marvin, who ran and was my boss at the fun shop in Ogden. He was a good example of how to do magic and present it well. He wasn't a monster with sleights, but he also was a theater major and a Satanist, which is kind of weird. He only used it to get cheap. But he was a good example of how to do magic and make it fun and entertaining. I invented a couple tricks at that magic shop, a version of Don Allen's ranch card, because I had no idea how he did his. I used a little set of chomping teeth and a version of Stabbed in the Pack, where you don't have that awful sleight at the end. And it let us sell a couple gap decks to excess. And he helped me write the story. Well, I don't like the word patter. I do write down what I'm going to say, and I just try to rip on it intelligently and react with the audience.
Like a conversation, I guess.
Yeah. Or more a shouting match, but in my case. But yeah, I think I think that I got some good advice from Eugene Berger. Sounds trivial, but he said, I want you to watch some of him do the same trick twice. He did it, and the second time, He just reached out and lightly touched the woman on her arm, very genteel, and he got a much stronger reaction. He said, physical contact done subtly is a great bonding tool. And he was just a smart guy. He didn't do
Yeah,
knuckle busting stuff, but he was a fabulous magician, and he had that aura.
yeah. I went down the Eugene Berger rabbit hole not too long ago and bought everything I could on him and some special, Ephorama and videos, and just really try to understand it all, because it's just, there's substance. My whole thing is that I feel like the magic world is in good hands. I think it's in the best time now. There's a theory that I've somewhat created that now is the golden age of magic, the new golden age of magic. It has skipped a couple generations, and it's massively growing and cultivating itself. And I feel like there's a substance missing to some magic in overall today. So it's always great to see magic done well, because they've got that substance that, I think the older generations appreciate really great magic.
Yeah. If you're not going to be great, find another hobby. There are enough lousy magicians already. We don't need you. Practice
It's
more.
like how I feel about kids magic. I personally don't. Well, there's a difference, right? There's kids magic and then there's magic for kids.
Yeah.
And I don't like kids magic. I think it doesn't do justice to our what we're all about and what we do. It really kind of puts the clown nose on it, and it's not what we do at all.
I
It's
don't
okay
do
to put a clown nose on and do magic for kids.
Yeah. I
So
I don't do kids magic because of the restraining orders, of course. But only kids I do magic for are my grandchildren. So
yeah. Well, I saw Mario the Maker Magician here
reason,
in Georgia one.
dude, that's not
Do what?
kids magic. That's not kids magic. That's Mario magic. That's its own robots made out of cardboard.
That's wizardry for kids. It's
He's
amazing. Absolutely. I hate to admit it. I've done this twice already on here, and I have to stop talking about it. But I cried at the end of his show, because he's doing real magic for kids. They're being exposed to incredible magic that even adults can appreciate. Yeah, it was something that I was just like, it's incredible to see someone take magic for kids and give kids actually feeling wonder and amazement, and just not sure how to process a card hovering around on a whatever it is, and that's the selected card. They don't get it, and it's amazing that they react the way they do.
man. I heard the train that time. Maybe I was doing some shrooms while you weren't looking.
Oh. Yeah, this is the second time it's gone by in this segment. Is it loud on your end?
I'm okay. I just wanted to tell you maybe you're not stoned or as stoned as you thought you were.
No, it's the what you just eat, gum? It's
No,
it's really
it's nicotine tablets. I quit smoking about 6 years ago. Went on a real health kick, lost 140 pounds, and
oh
I
wow.
want to die. My life
Oh
sucks,
wow.
but it's better than no life.
Yeah, that's okay. What I'll wrap it up here, and
Okay.
what advice do you have, I don't know, for the next generation? Like, just, do you have anything like for the young
Yeah,
folks, or
I got 3 things for them. 1, practice and rehearse. They're 2 different things. Practice is working on your diagonal palm shift. Don't use a mirror. Oh, and as an adjunct, the next thing that's coming is realize that practice is different than rehearsal. Rehearsal is where you stand up and go through the whole trick, say everything you're going to say. Second thing is use your iPhone or your Android and record yourself, and still staying within that advice is watch yourself and be your worst possible critic. I did that for myself and went, wow, I don't know who that old guy is, but he sucks. I changed almost everything I did, or at least cleaned it up. and shoot it from a couple different angles.
Yeah.
You've got 2 phones, you've got an old one sitting there, run one left and one right, and on the same level, if you're gonna put stuff online, this is all number 2, learn how to light yourself with 2 different light, at least 2 or 3 different light sources. I got a son who does that for a living, and he hooked me up. I was all set up with my ring light and my 1,500 watts, but that computer doesn't work. Lights I can do, apparently computers I can't. And the third thing is perform for real people. Perform for real people. Magicians will give you feedback that is at least 50% pure horse shit.
Mm-hmm.
Perform for real people. And, I don't know who said that he used to put a tape recorder in the bathroom where he was performing and hear what people had to say about the show and try to get their feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Interesting.
3 things: practice and rehearse, video yourself, and perform in front of real people.
I think that's incredible advice. I think that's some of the best advice I've actually heard in a while.
Yeah, and if you can, get a steady gig somewhere. It'll just make you want to. I had a steady gig for 3 years at a restaurant doing close-up at tables. I started off doing a bunch of card tricks, and when I left, I was doing the bunnies and coin tricks, and that was it.
What do you think about like magic shops? If there's a magic shop in someone's local town, should they take the
It's a
gig?
great.
Should they?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked for 3 different magic shop companies. I worked in Ogden. I worked in Denver at 2 different shops. They had 2 different shops. And I worked here in Cocoa Village, though that wasn't for very long. Yeah, it's a chance to perform in front of live people. And even your demo can be a performance. Maybe you don't like the trick. Maybe you don't think a lot of it, but the boss has got 800 sets of plastic Adams cups in the back. Work up a really
Mm-hmm.
good routine with those cups and lie to them and tell them it's in the instructions. It's okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. I think you've shared some
Right.
great stories about your journey and you and your career in magic. And tell us again where people can, if they want to come to your convention, where it's at. And
Sure.
I'll put the link in the show notes too.
It's in Orlando, Florida, at the Buena Vista Holiday Inn. And if you go to goldengategathering.com, it'll even list all the performers. Although I'm pretty sure I mentioned all 5 of them this year. It's small. We have a show that all the performers, and I got a kid who makes his living as a magician, and sometimes he's in the show just because he's a good guy. His name's Steve Nelson, really talented performer. And he swears more than I do, so I love him. I do a lot of kid shows. And we just have a good time. The main thing is, for me, it's not the lectures. We'll session all night. It's the younger. I try to stay up, but I run out of steam about 2 in the morning, and I still
It's
drive
pretty
home.
late.
Yeah, especially if you're a really old man. And, we just hang out and have a good time and tell stories and do card tricks. There is a level of camaraderie I've only seen at 2 other conventions, the 52 in Buffalo, which gave me the idea to start my convention, really. And then Lance Pierce, who I had come lecture for me the next year, he starts the Pebble Convention. I say he stole my idea, but since it was already stolen, it's okay. And Lance's and about the same size, 40, maybe 50 people. I understand the second deal conventions were very much like that. Small
Mm-hmm.
group. And not everybody is a, finger slamming guy. We got old guys like me who are well past their prime, but they enjoy it and they'll bust out a trick that'll fool the shit out of you. So it's
That's
okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good time to me. I was
You're
looking at it the
right.
other day, and if I can make it down, I will.
Yeah, do it. What town are you in?
I'm right outside of Atlanta, like in Georgia.
Yeah, you're probably 4 hours from the house or from the
Yeah.
convention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on down, and if you don't, go to Tricks. I hear that's a good time too.
Yeah, Tricks just took place. I heard it was a good time. We're just now seeing the photos and all the stuff from the convention.
I don't go
But
because we supply the hookers. You don't need to bring your tricks where I come from. So part of your fee.
that's a great way to end. I love that. Well, Ken,
Uh,
thank you for sitting
that's
down
great.
with me and chatting.
only got through my technical inabilities and probably put myself in the worst possible light, and that's okay because I don't look any better well lit. All right, Benny, had a great time. I appreciate you taking the time and letting me talk about my convention. You have a great day, brother.
You too. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me on the MO Sessions. I hope you found some inspiration and insight to bring a little more magic into your world. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. For updates and further thinkings, the dope, or any of my essays, please see the links in the show notes. I'll see you next time, and remember, leave magic better than when you found it.